I'm kind of saying it's location
Hmm.
mindset, right? If you want to go pirate these people who the industry guys, right, they can rack up a lot of gold. But if you want to pirate these guys and take their gold
Ah,
from them, you need to know where they're at. If you're told that there's only two locations in Stanton to buy gold, you got to guarantee that you got a 50-50 shot now of being able to find somebody coming in a hauling ship that you can easily outclass, who's probably playing solo.
good evening, good afternoon, whatever time it is for you. Welcome to episode number 2 of the Expedition Soul podcast. The first one was a smash hit with over 30 views, so we decided we're going to come back and do another one. I tried to bring Jumps and Aitan back on, but they quickly denied me and denounced me as a friend. So we got Mavric. Mavric is in the call right now. Hey, Mavric, please say hi to the audience here.
What's up? This is your good friend Mavric, and want to be a special shout out to our sponsor of today's video is Cruise Lux.
Oh, yes,
For
Cruise
all
Lux.
things that your body needs.
Cruise Lux is a nice small package that contains every single essential vitamin and mineral that your body will need at any time of the day. Cruise Lux comes in lime flavor, the most delicious flavor, if you ask me. If you're out there mining or if you're out there shooting guys, a nice Cruise Lux will go down well with all that blood. Wouldn't you agree,
It
Maverick?
is, yeah, it is the sole proprietary drink of the Stanton system.
Ex-
Filthy pyro scum do not get such luxuries as lime
uh,
flavored cruise.
I mean, to be fair, they are expanding into Pyro. You can get it at Cargo Decks, I recently found out, which was a big win for me if you're on Orb or anything like that. So it actually, I'm very pleased. I don't have to eat stinking rats anymore or grubs. You know, I get to drink a
That's
nice, clean bottle of Cruise Lux.
that's a hot take. A lot of people are on the fence about it. Pyro's done some filthy things to Stanton, and why should they get the luxuries of Stanton if they're going to be filthy pyro rats?
I mean, you have a good point there. Why should we give them such luxuries at this point? Because, I mean, what have they done for us, right? They pirated us. Xenothreat, that's their fault. Coming into our system, we get to...
Pressurized ice? Is that all they're going to give us?
Yeah, that's right. It's a pyro event, mind you, that led to the great lines lined up at Magnus Jump Station, right? Traffic, navigational hazard, nightmare. You know, ships lined up, people watching Netflix all day long, trying to get all that junk.
Quantum interdiction,
Oh, yeah.
pirates, galore.
It's been rough.
All for what? A measly 8 SCU of copper?
I know. We're just trying to feed our families out here, and they just keep on trying to get into good Christian industrymen. It's a real rough time. Well,
we're just trying to do God's work out here, okay?
Yeah, it's just, please, okay? At least if we have to do God's work, which is tough at times, but rewarding, of course, then we should deserve some Cruise Lux, and nobody else should get it. I mean, hot take, but come on.
You know what? I stand by your opinion.
I appreciate you backing me up here. Well, Mavric, please give the fine folks listening at home here a little insight into your journey in Star Citizen. Like, how did you get into the game? What originally got you in? And, what have you been doing lately?
I'm an apprehensive gamer, meaning I like to game, but I don't like to try new games.
Sure.
It's kind of like an adult thing in mine. I don't have time to learn new mechanics or anything like that of games. And so I'm apprehensive about buying a game that I'm just going to play for like 2 hours and then never pick it up again.
Yeah.
And so Jumps, being the type of guy he is, he's like, hey, I'm going to buy Star Citizen for you. And I was like, no, don't do that, because I'll probably only play it for 2 hours and never pick it up again. He's like, no, I already did it. Here's you $100 game package. Here's the Cuddy Black. Have a good time. And I was like, well, you just dropped $100 on me. I'm going to give it the best that I can, just because you just spent $100 on me to play a game with you. So this was like 2019, early 2020, something like that. And jumped in with Jumps, had all the typical bugs that you expect. First time, it's always awful.
Mm-hmm,
but I said I was going to really give it my attention for like a week, to really try to, earn his money, as it would say. And I think the rock mining had just kind of come out during that time, or been out for a patch or two. and he went and just bought me that in game and set me up. It was the perfect little ship to house the rock. And man, I dove in deep into the industry gameplay. It was just like set me on the course of just like relaxing, industry grind.
Yeah, I mean it's a good grind. I mean, this game is it can be crazy, but it is very chill, for a lot of times. And I know a lot of people like to kind of get into that. I've always been more of like I like industry and I love like let's do some salvage, let's get a power wash simulator going. But I kind of want to mix so a little differently. But you are our resident industry expert, and is that not correct?
Yeah, it is. It's a numbers game for me in a lot of ways. I love the simple fact of like, cool, the prospector can hold 36 SCUs if I max out the buffer and bring this back in. And if I do this specific route, I can make an extra 15% on that 36 SCU.
Oh, yeah.
And then like hauling just takes that to like a whole nother level because all hauling is numbers.
Yeah, I mean, it's great. I mean, you were just talking about the story of like, it's very satisfying, right? When you're like, I'm going to plan this route out. I'm going to get exactly how much money I need. This is how it's going to go. And then you make it happen. And it's, if it works, which, that's always a challenge with the game. But if it works, it's a good time.
And, I listened to the last episode of you guys, and it was so funny to hear like Aitan say that he was the cautious person. He's like, I think I kind of want to go out of my way not to interact with people. Yeah. And Jumper was just like, no, screw it, man. I'm diving in balls deep. And if they're there, they're dying.
That's yeah. It's obvious. Like I'm the kind of guy who gets stabbed, in the clip, and Jumps is like, no, I'm stabbing. Nobody's stabbing you because I'm stabbing first.
It was so funny. I was hee-hawing at it, and I was, relating so much to Aitan because I will go and do a whole extra jump to make sure that I'm going out of the main flight ways, just because there could be a 1% chance of a quantum interdiction. And I've got a load of over 2 million, SU of whatever.
Right. I mean, and I think
go ahead.
No, I think that's a great way to do it, right? I mean, I think but there's also that the risk is in the back of your head. Like you are playing safe, but you're always like, I'm doing this because there's that potential, right? Which means to some extent you are interacting with the player base when you're making these safer decisions. So I mean, you couldn't have that kind of planning element without the pirates being around as well. So there is like something to be said for that.
I would like to make a little opinion statement here that I think the ultimate Chad players of Star Citizen are not your, Avenger ones or, your strong PvP clans, but they're the haulers of the game, the traders, the people who are willing to drop, $1 to $5 million on a shipment of gold, just so that they can then go and profit, $6 or $7 million on it. Now I'm exaggerating significantly on the dollar value there.
No, you have to put a lot up on the industry side. I mean, cargo in particular. I was making this argument. It's funny you bring up literally Avenger 1 because that when we were talking, I brought that argument to his attention. I was like, look, I get it. Like, we PvPers, they put a lot of time. We put a lot of time into being good at that side of the game, about putting the ship where we want it to, and playing that level of it, right? But someone on the other side of the fence who is just like a cargo guy has put just as much time into raising the money, right? Put just as much risk into losing that potentiality, right? So even though you've hit this level of skill, there's like another skill that's operating at the same time that's completely different or completely separate from that I think still deserves attention, reward, and like we should like be like, sometimes, that guy's a great industry guy, like Mr. Moneybags over there, right? He kills it in industry, and he's a good Star Citizen player because of that. Not because he's an excellent PvP pilot, but because he plays the number game perfectly.
Yeah. And honestly, if you sync those two together, you have the perfect pirate squad. Because you need the industry guy who's done the research, like take mining, for example. I don't know too many PvPers that spend time digging through the mining sheets to figure out where the highest ore percentage is.
Right.
or which ore is actually like doing well,
Or or like
and
what
but
is like, okay, what's cluster versus resistance versus
Mhm.
anything else? Like, what's the difference between using a helix head? Why would you want to bring out a mining gadget, right? Like, there's a whole other level there that they
Well,
probably be like, I don't know.
I'm kind of saying it's location
Hmm.
mindset, right? If you want to go pirate these people who the industry guys, right, they can rack up a lot of gold. But if you want to pirate these guys and take their gold
Ah,
from them, you need to know where they're at.
that's a good point.
So what PvPer is going to want to spend the time watching a 25-minute guide video about mining just to try to find the right location?
No, that's so true. Actually, you don't even really think about that, but yeah, like if you have someone who is like maybe not even a great pilot, right? But he's
Mhm.
sitting pretty in a safe ship, but he knows mining, knows it like in and out, and he knows the kind of places people are. Like that could be a huge asset to someone who is trying to find a place to profit. Because a lot of times that's the case for PvP players. It's like, okay, I'm ready to pirate or I'm ready to do this, but where are the players? I don't know where they are at, like where do I even go? Where do I even start? Right. So it's like, okay, default to Shepherd's Rest or, any number of those locations. And sometimes you find
Sure.
people, sometimes you don't.
hmm And honestly, like if Shepherd's Rest is this known PvP hotspot, you can guarantee that the only thing you're going to find there are PvP players.
Or,
Like you're never going to find the industry guys there, the easy pickings, right? The
yeah,
low hanging fruit. But if you're told that there's only 2 locations in Stanton to buy gold, you got to guarantee that you got a 50-50 shot now of being able to find somebody coming in a hauling ship that you can easily outclass, who's probably playing solo, because how many people want to just
mhm.
ride a turret? And as an industry guy with numbers, if I got to pay a guy just to ride his turret, that's 50% of my profit.
Right. Yeah. And if
You
you
know?
if you could get away from that, that means that it's not cutting into what you're trying to
Yeah.
do, right? So
If I can load the C2 by myself and it takes me an extra 20 minutes, well, that 20 minutes is, worth it because I made 50% more in profit.
and that's interesting because, right, like, I mean, who is at Shepherd's Rest? It's probably not, the guy who's got a full load in the C2 or, right, like a fully loaded,
Mhm. Yeah.
reclaimer or mole, right, that they're bringing back to haul. No, like they know that that's not a good idea, right? The people you're interacting with at Shepherd's Rest are going to be the people who don't know, who are like, this is my first cargo run and I was able to buy 20K cargo with my very piddly
Mhm.
profits, right? And that's
Yeah.
all they have.
Yeah, I'm coming in here with a freelancer, that I've saved up and ground for, and I can finally buy a full freelancer's worth of gold. It's going to net me a whopping 300K,
Yeah.
but I'm so excited to be able to do this loop now because if I do it, 100 more times, now I can get into the C2 or something like that, into the freelancer max.
Yeah, I feel like this could be a whole other conversation. Like we could talk about this endlessly because it is an interesting one with that respect because there's an Eve mentality coming in here as well. Where the people who are getting screwed or feel the worst when they get screwed are the people who probably aren't even at that high level yet, right? They're like just
Yeah.
foraying into it and they're like, I finally my 10 hours in the game and I finally got this. And then, to lose all that right off the bat is just like, that's just so demoralizing, right? Versus someone who's
Yeah.
like a seasoned industry vet who's like, running these huge hard cargo runs. And they know how much money they have loaded up and they know what it's like, right? That might not go as, badly, like, or they might be more willing to conversate with a pirate. Like,
Oh,
hey, yeah,
yeah.
fine. You can have this haul or you can have half the haul as long as I get my life,
Well, the perfect example, I think it comes back to, hate to bring up the numbers game again, but the seasoned hauler is going to have a way to make money fast.
Hmm.
Take the whole C, for example. Once you get into the experience rates and hauling missions, there's $700,000 per mission to do a whole C run,
Hmm.
right? So if I'm in, say, a C2 or something like that, and I'm hauling gold, and a pirate comes and he wants my gold, I'm looking at that saying, okay, at best, I've invested, maybe 1.2 million or maybe $2 million, right? And I'm going to profit about 1 million on this run.
Hmm.
Is it worth my time to try to run and lose all of it? Or can I have some fun gameplay and interact with this pirate if he'll actually interact with me, not grief me?
Right. And
yeah, because there's a big difference between just griefing somebody, pad ramming them, and then or just like flying around, SD1, hoping that you are able to hit cargo shit that's coming in, and actually plotting out an interdiction with somebody and saying, "Hey, look, we're here to stop you from jumping. We've got multiple guys. Shut her down. Give us your loadout."
yeah.
And actually going through the pirate game loop.
And that's, something where like, a lot of haulers might not be thinking about it on that level, right? Or like it's a numbers game and instead act in pure spite. Like I'm holding back space, right? Like I don't want any part of this.
Mm-hmm.
And that doesn't help anyone, right? Like if we can, if there was more communication, you could almost find a middle ground where it's like, how much money can I extract from this guy but he's not going to, where it's going to be reasonable for him to do that. And it's not going to be like, I'm going to kill myself because I don't want to deal with this situation, right? Like where it's like, okay, I think I can make the loss up on that.
Because let me tell you, I don't envy anybody who's had to ever hand load a C2. All right. If I'm running, because most likely I'm not going to be running a full load, a C2 of gold. There's just not any place that you can buy that much gold. That's like a small, maybe a medium ship, commodity that you're going to buy. With the C2, you're going to be running something like waste, titanium, nitrogen, things that you can make a 30 or 40% return on investment.
Mm-hmm.
And then at scale, that's going to net you, $1.5 million. But
this is where having a pirate, a mining guy work with pirates. He's like, well, this is like, if I was making this run, this is probably how much I would be able to spend and make it worth my time still. Right. Like this is probably a reasonable sum.
Yeah. And as the guy in the C2, you stop me and I've got a load of nitrogen there that I know I'm going to make good money from. And I go, look, you want this stuff and we can't find a good solution. I'm going to blow up the ship and I'm going to laugh as you spend the next 5 hours trying to collect 700 SCU of nitrogen.
Yeah. And some of it's going to be gone because the ship blew up. So you're not going to get the whole thing anyways.
Yeah. And so it's just like a complete time sink for you. Like I won at that point.
Well, we at that point, it's like, that's why they backspace, right? It's probably because it's like, well, I kind of won that situation, or they can feel good about walking away from that, where it's like, yep, now I left them with a big problem. Hope you enjoy, you idiots. Good, good work on that one. So,
and so having the industry player in your org, I think is it's as important as having the PvP player.
Mm-hmm. I think Star Citizen is at its best when there's a mix of all gameplay loops kind of coming together. So I do hope like eventually we kind of get the game to that place, but obviously that's not for a while. What can we, let's like talk more about what we can focus on now. So 4.0 just ended, surprise drop of 4.1. How did you feel about the end of 4.0? Did you get everything you were hoping for there?
Man. So 4.0 for me really needed 3 things. We needed server meshing to really, work. And I'm going to be nice and I'm going to say server meshing really works.
Yeah, it works. It works.
Yeah. And I saw a boost in performance. Stations were relatively smooth.
NPCs were flying better.
Better. I was very happy with that. Number 2, we needed pyro. And we needed pyro just to feel different than Stanton. And as an industry player, I'm kind of thinking, okay, how is salvaging ships in pyro going to be different than salvaging ships in Stanton? And it's all based in the crime stat, right? In pyro, I just jump out of the station and make sure my stealth components are working. And now anybody who just left their ship on a pad, that's free money for me.
Yeah.
I don't even have to do salvage contracts or work on the rep because there's enough broken down ships. I can go to Shepherd's Landings on the off hours and there's just random crashes everywhere. Load up super quick, and then get out.
It's true. I mean, and you don't have to even worry about like, this is a crime. You've committed a crime on, and all that, which is, arguably even more annoying for someone who doesn't partake of PvP or doesn't partake of combat, right? Where working that crime stat off is a huge, and you lose time. Even if you're going to jail, like that's time you could be making money and you're doing some other menial activity instead, or you're logging off for the night. So, in some ways that's made a big difference, even more so than for PvP players.
And, I never expected myself to be a part of the cleanup crew for the server. But in Pyro, when I started realizing that, this ship that's over here, I no longer get a crime stat for, destroying someone's property.
Yeah.
That means I just need to, shoot the door open, turn the ship off, and now your Cuddy Black just netted me 300K.
They call him Mavric the janitor. Well, why do they call him that? It's because he literally cleans stuff up. He's a nice guy. You should hang out.
He just cleans things up. You leave a mess, he doesn't mind it. He picks up your trash.
Yeah. Meanwhile, you bathe in your Alpha UEC, just like you fools.
Yeah. And honestly, it's a lot more interesting than moving boxes. All of .0 and .1, I moved boxes. And I think I finally found that route from Bajini to Area 18, where you can do like 400 to 600K an hour, but you've got to move like 4 or 6 contracts, all going from Bajini Point to Area 18. And I did like $8 million worth of that. And man, at one point I was just like, I can't move another box.
Okay, I've hit my limit on the box moving. This is it.
Yeah, I'm done. And so then thankfully, .2 dropped and it was like supply or die.
Yeah. Did you get into much supply or die?
The salvage, we've gone way off on your question here. But that was right as I bought a vulture in game. I took, part of that 8 million and bought a vulture, and that's how I did supply or die.
Okay, so you went the salvage route on supply or die. Did you get much success? Were you able to complete the event out?
Yeah. To finish your question before we move on, the last thing that I really wanted from 4.0 was engineering. I really think those 3 things, you needed server meshing, pyro, and engineering to really have a complete 4.0 package.
That's true.
And I think they really delivered on 2 out of the 3 of those. And so
that's the Star
I'll give it a win.
Yeah, I mean, win's a win. Yeah. It's more than 50%, so we'll take it. Like that's how it goes with this game at the end of the day. Yeah, I do feel bad that we didn't get engineering. I'd like to see it soon, but I doubt we will. It sort of feels like it's just not. It's not really in the consideration right now. And I thought that was going to be that combined with Pyro was going to be like game changer, right? Like this is a whole new game that we're walking into. So we only got like half that picture, which does kind of suck at the end of the day.
Yeah, and you can go to Avenger One's channel and you can hear him talk about how multi-cruise ships just don't work at this current moment. That they're just basically a big fighter or a worse fighter.
Yeah.
And putting more people in turrets doesn't solve that problem. And so engineering was going to really help the multi-cruise ship.
Yeah, there's actually like a meaning to having like an engineer, and there's something to be good at there, right? That's a whole gameplay loop that we're missing, right? Which I think would have appealed to a lot of players like yourself, or I think Aitan. He's particularly fond of that one, so I think he'd love to get into that.
I think that's right up his role. And you tell him to go buy the Carrack, and he's giving you his credit card.
Yeah,
and then don't even mention the Kraken to him.
Yeah. He's like, you want to fly it? He just wants to be a part of the ship, but he buys the whole thing. He's like, no, you fly. I don't want to deal with it.
Yeah, he's gonna need a couple alt accounts just so he can have all the turrets manned.
Yeah. Oh boy.
But yeah, so it was sad to see engineering get dropped, but I think I'm gonna have some faith in the Star Citizen, powers that be. that they're going to be able to. They did that for a good reason.
Yeah, I think it was. Sorry, go on.
Yeah. Well, if you tried to add engineering into any one of these last events, supply or die, for example, I don't think it would have worked. There'd been too many bugs.
Mhm.
It would have been a huge, whiplash of 318. For anybody new into Star Citizen who didn't get to experience 318, there was the desert that was 3.17, where for almost, 8 months, we didn't get an update.
Yeah, it was huge. Like there was a huge, just like, and not even really like very many patches in between. Like it was just dead, no content, nothing was happening.
Yeah, like I joined the Medrunner org just to spice things up, and play around with Medrunners. And I'll give them a little shout out if you ever need a 911 call center for Star Citizen, they're your go-to.
They're great, and I hope they get their gameplay back.
It would be great for but yeah, and then 318 hit, and the game didn't work. Nothing about the game worked. Like spawning ships, trying to do quantum jumps, the basic things that you need just did not work. And that was right at the winter holiday when they dropped it. And so we had free time on our hands to play the game that we love, and it just didn't work.
It was, and everyone was so excited, obviously, because of this huge content drought. We were like, oh my God, it's finally coming. And they had a lot of cool features that we were all hyped about and we were excited about. iCache was, that was a big change. We really wanted to see that one. And they had been talking about it for a while, like it's holding the game back. And, don't you want to have your coffee mugs under rocks? Like what do we, come on, guys, we need this. And then it broke everything. Like everything just fell apart, and there were weeks even where you couldn't even log into the game. Like you were hard stuck at the menu, unable to actually even interact with anything that was going on. And even if you got in, like it was not stable, It
wasn't even fun at that point. I'll take a lot of punishment with the bugs, and I kind of get a sixth sense of, accomplishment to be able to say, hey, I worked around this bug and I made it, was still able to deliver the the cargo, complete the mission.
Player versus game.
Yeah, it's really what it was. But in 318, there was no winning. There was no success.
Yeah, it was just like there was no satisfaction. It was a very tough time, and you'll hear like a lot of veteran players like us will like be like, oh, we can't have another 318. Like every time it starts feeling like that, like it's like they're trying to do too much again. It's gonna happen again. It's like it is a deep seated fear that we will return to those days. But thankfully they haven't not been too bad lately. They've been more I would say conservative on their releases, right? Biting off what they can chew. So far, fingers crossed it continues. They're not going to go back to old habits, and we'll see like a lot of progress on the stability and the balance of the game, and keeping it fun. But even if that to slow down a little bit.
Yeah, they did an Inside Star Citizen where they called it Stable Citizen, and I think that was probably the biggest miss of 2024 for Star Citizen, was that it wasn't stable, and they realized that and are kind of like, man, we got to make it stable. And I'm like, man, you already missed your opportunity.
Yeah, they're so far beyond like, oh, we're game testers. This is a games as service product. It needs to, we can deal with some bugs. Like as a community, we're pretty good at dealing with that kind of stuff. But nowadays, I mean, we put a lot of money into this game, and so on and so forth. And if they want to continue getting the good data that they get from so many people being in, they have to kind of think about the players a little bit. It can't just be like we're developing this game in a black hole, right? There are other people, and they're on release timers. They have to get stuff out. So it's like no other game in that respect. And I think they're having to adapt to that, right? Instead of just we're building a game and you guys get to be a part of it mentality. So
2024 for Star Citizen had the opportunity to bring in more players than they'd ever seen.
Yeah.
There was a lot of hype coming in with And Space Tomato, he does a great talk on this and on his channel about how 2024, if they could have had a stable environment for people to play in, they could have really capitalized on the idea of this, space simulator,
Yeah.
this game we call Star Citizen. And trying to push that off to 2025 now and still capitalize on it, your return is, significantly less.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I definitely think you guys should, if you haven't already, tune into that talk on his channel. It's a great video. I wish I knew if I had a link, I would give it to you guys. I'll probably put it in the description after we get this one out, and so you guys can check that out, because Space Tomato, I think, is a really good. He really does have the pulse on the community and kind of what he wants to see. He's a fan through and through. So I think he always has a good take on that kind of stuff, and I often look to him when I'm like, what do I want to feel right now?
Yeah, and he's humble too. Space Tomato. He's grown his following through a lot of sweat and effort, and he only gets that pulse of being close to the community if he didn't actually play the game, if he didn't follow it as closely as he did.
Yeah.
So good things to say about Space Tomato.
Well, we have an unprecedented moment in Expedition Soul history, episode 2, and we have a mid-join in. Aitan Liron is here to hang out and talk Star Citizen. What's up, man? I thought I scared you away with the last one. How you doing?
No worries. I actually forgot. I went out to do some farm chores, laid down, and fell into a coma. So I'm back.
Hey, well,
fresh from coma.
Fresh from coma, mind working at full capacity right now, I'm sure.
Yeah. I'd say so. It was a good nap.
Good nap.
I don't know if you know this, Aitan, but this episode is sponsored by Cruise Lux.
Oh, yes, of course. Do you want to give a shout to Cruise Lux?
Awkward situation. I actually switched sponsorships to Cruise Dark recently.
Oh my God, he's a competitor. Get him out of the
Look, they offered a lot of money.
Oh my gosh, I can't believe you would abandon the Cruise Lux fight
for money of all things.
Money. X2 Brute, my closest Cruise Lux ally.
That's true.
Stabbed in the back.
I did ride with you on the Lux train for many a year.
Wow. I'm sure we'll, with time, overcome this great divide that has risen between us, and hopefully we can be friends again. Not today, obviously, but someday.
No, someday.
I mean, we share the same real name that will not be revealed here, so there's already like some tension. So it's gonna there's a rich tapestry of drama that's at play here that you guys are just not privy to.
We've signed an alliance of sorts for the time being. Yeah.
We'll see how long it holds out. We haven't put it in ink yet, but we're thinking about it. We'll see how it goes. So we sort of just got to the end of. We kind of talked about state of Star Citizen, lack of engineering being in the game, that being a bummer as usual, and wanting to see that kind of multi-crew stuff come in, and as well as like 2014 and 318 and how rough that was on all of us, and hoping to not get into that here, which I think is a good time to pivot into sort of what we are seeing right now, which is we have 4.1. We just wrapped up 4.0, Supply or Die. That was a fun event, but this 4.1 event is looking even better, right? Like Aligner Mine is looking crazy. But I am a little concerned because 4.1 is launching very quickly. I was expecting to see it this weekend, but we got it on Thursday. As we were planning this episode, all of a sudden they were like, oh, by the way, 4.1 is out. And I thought it was in a very unstable state. So concerns all around. But so far, it hasn't been too bad. I popped in. I was at least able to get gear. So that's a good step.
Yeah.
I
am very concerned with the event. We knew that we wanted to talk about 4.1 a little bit. So I was trying to get some research in to familiarize myself and seeing just how anxiety provoking, I think is what I called it before we started the episode, that this event was going to be for someone like me, like the industry player. The Star Citizen said it was you versus other players, already kind of on the fence on this one.
Yeah.
And then it was also you versus the Ninetales. And now I'm going, my chances are looking slim.
And you versus the Sandworms.
And then you also versus Sandworms. And I'm like,
abominations, by the way.
Yeah. Sandworms who are deadly accurate with throwing, mucus rocks at me.
Yeah, they pop up behind you. Yeah, fuck it. Freaking crazy.
I think no. Unless I have a lot of friends, I don't think I'm going to be good at this event. Or at least have a good time.
For people who are sort of out of the loop on that, so the lore that we are here at right now is that there's a regen crisis. So in the Star Citizen lore, Aesop spheres, which is the regen technology, is very new. This is like fresh technology, just came out, and people are like, "Oh my god, this is going to stop everyone from death." We're going to be able to cheat death and live forever and ever and ever now. And now we're running into this wall of some people are unable to respawn, people die, and they're not coming back, and that is new. That is very new. It's not what's supposed to be happening. So Rayari Incorporated, a mining and scientific firm, are taking upon themselves to look into this. And of course, they need the, wouldn't you know, for gameplay, they need the MacGuffin resources that they just added to the game to make that research happen. So we have the Align or Mine event, which is a several stage event that is a huge thing that's happening. A lot of people are probably going to be participating as we get into it. And essentially, it's several stages. You have to, first off, clear out some satellites. You have to find key cards or key card-like objects to insert into the satellites to align them to a mining dish. You then go all the way up into space to clear out this space laser. You then shoot this space laser from above, from the ground. You press a big red button and it launches a big space laser, which is super cool, exploding the ground around, where you can then access these very valuable and new resources that have been added to the game. So there's a lot that goes into it. It takes a long time to even get there. And so the worry for a lot of people is, of course, that you not only are you fighting off these NPCs, but, if you finish it and people see that late space laser come out, all of a sudden space pirates coming out the wazoo, right? Oh, they put the work in. I don't want to, I'm glad they did that for me. I'm going to come down there and kill them all, and then take all the loot for myself. So
yeah, just need the minerals, I'm going to wait till they're done mining and they've done all the work. They fought all the bad guys. And then I'm just going to rip those shiny gems right out of their pockets.
Yeah, these miners, they don't know how to hold a gun. I'm just going to shoot them in the back or shoot them from space because I can. And they cannot fight me.
You're not wrong.
So
you want me to crack, a 7,000 kilogram rock? I could do that. You want me to try to snipe somebody from 700 meters away? No. Not happening.
Skill set.
Uh-huh.
So are you going to try, though? Like, do you think, I want to get everyone together and we can run this because I think we need people for this one. It definitely feels like a big org event. Like, you can't run. Yeah. Don't run this solo. It's going to go badly for you. You're probably not going to have a good time. Bring your friends, and in that way, you'll be able to participate at this level, this high level.
No, yeah, it's definitely seeming to be. I feel like this is a very high-end industrial style gameplay because it is industry based, technically, because it's mining. And you are using giant mining lasers, some more industry. I get it, but the PvP aspect, I think it was an interesting choice because they did put it in Stanton, right? It's not in Pyro, and I feel like it should have been in both. Yeah, maybe a Pyro version that had, let's say, a higher mineral yield cave, right? But Stanton here, we have crime stats. So while it is true, like anyone could just come and pop you, they will get a crime stat for it. And the point is so that bounty hunters will take their bounties, come get them, etc. The problem is that when you're talking about people coming in this cruise, it's like, yes, it completely almost eliminates any potential fairness for solo players. Like, there really isn't a lot of room to grind here for a solo player. Like what you could do if you are good enough at the PvE, and the NPCs, when the server runs well, they're tactical. They throw grenades, they flank you, they snipe, they rush you with their shotguns. It's rough out there. But it really comes down to it being a large scale operation. And it's not like the worst thing, because in a way you do kind of get your combat veterans out, like, oh yeah, we want to fight Ninetales on these giant facilities and these platforms. And you also get your industrial players who are like, yeah, we would love to mine. And so I feel like if they added
land mineable, a hand mineable.
It's huge.
I gotta get myself some Karenite. Are you kidding me?
Oh, 100%. And it's just like getting it to a point where people feel comfortable enough to group up with random people in game. Like there's no mechanic really for that. And inherently, like, people aren't so always ready to like jump into random parties. Now, granted, there are plenty of people who do that, and like more power to them. That's awesome. But for a lot of us, like, we've encountered like some really hostile environments just joining random. So it's like a deterrent, So you really do need these organizations to help you. Now, as a solo player, if you're good at PvE, like I was saying, is that you could technically go down to one of these facilities, kill all the Ninetales there, print out the key card, get the you're supposed to get like a battery to power the satellite that's in space. So I guess technically for a solo player, there is some potential. It's just going to be it's going to be an adventure. It's not going to be a mission. Well, and one that's like a very high tier, it could end poorly.
You're rolling the dice for sure, and you need to roll like a natural 20, or you're not getting anywhere. So that I mean, I could see it.
So, I mean, I'd recommend for like solo players, if they want to do that and just get the batteries, and then maybe look for a group on Discord, maybe on like the Star Citizen channel, so it's like more public. Find a group there. Be like, hey, I'm a solo player. I found all the batteries. I could really use like a combat crew to help. And I would say that's your best bet right now for finding like a group of players who are like, oh yeah, sure, we'll protect you while you mine. Because there are people who want to do that. There are people who want to feel like, oh, my combat skill is a deterrent for piracy. I feel like that's definitely here right now. But again, it's that incentive to communicate isn't.
I do see it as, and I don't think it's a bold claim to say this is very Jump Towny. It's giving a lot of Jump Town vibes right now, which is certainly kind of what they're going down. And if we kind of recall Jump Town, this isn't to say that, like, if you're a solo player, you should not participate at all, because Jump Town, there are definitely moments where there is that organization where people are just lined up outside and they're like, I'm here for drugs. You here for drugs? Yeah, we're all here for drugs. And then, people just hang out. And it's totally chill. And that happens, but it doesn't happen all the time. And I would not be afraid to even reach out in a global chat, be like, hey, I'm running a line or mine. Is anyone down? You might get a pirate that's like, oh, you running a line or mine, you say. But you could also find like people are like, oh, yeah, we're running it too. You want to group up, let's make a team. So I mean, and that's not a bad idea for a solo player to just hop on with a group that's already doing it, even if you're just getting a couple of the rare resources. I mean, hey, it's an experience, because that's what the game ultimately is going to be like, right? It's just going to be like a ton of people that are just flying around in space, either doing combat or non-combat activities, and someone's going to be like, hey, I need a crew member, and someone else is going to be like, all right, I'll give it a shot.
I did that way back when the first Xenothreat missions events were going down, and we were all at Mikhail 1, and I was just like, hey, I'll ride turret. Has anybody got a spot open? And the guy was piloting a reclaimer, and he just picked up anybody from local chat, and
like a shuttle.
Sorry, not reclaimer, retaliator.
Yeah,
sure.
So a bunch of turrets. And I'd never been in the Retaliator at that time. And so it was like lots of fun for me to be like, dude, this is big ship, with lots of turrets.
I mean,
and we just went and ran the event. Made a bunch of money.
Yeah. I mean, it's exactly how me and Aitan met, actually. I was just hanging out in Star Citizen. Someone was like, in a Carrack and talking about it. And I was like, hey, you mind if I pop in and check it out and crew the Carrack? And Aitan was like, sure. come hang out. A few minutes, hours later, who knows at this point, we were in the same Discord and we were talking in Expedition Soul history, so I mean, that happened. Like you will meet some really cool people, but there's not a lot of some people are not interested, right? They don't want to reach out. There are people to reach out to, and I do feel for those kind of players who are maybe coming into a line or mine and they are fully solo, right? They don't want to have that interaction. But I think this is something we're just gonna have to get used to. Like you're gonna have to find a way to either not play right now, well, there's nothing for a solo player to do, or work around it. Find a way around that for yourself, because this is an MMO and a lot of the content is going to be based on group gameplay, right? I think Star Citizen is at its best when there's group gameplay, and I think if you haven't given it a shot yet, you really should. But if it's really not for you, there's still going to be plenty to do. It's just maybe this isn't your patch, Yeah,
because I think let's say if they did some kind of party system, this is all hypothetical, but if they did something where let's say I wanted to do PvE content, I wanted to do combat, I wanted to do non-story combat missions, I wanted to do event missions, these would all be filters I could set up on some kind of party finder. Now, all just nonsense that I'm just talking, but ideally it'd be really cool if they had it set to the faction system that they brought up in the past, and make it so that we could sign up through the party finder. If we're signing up for combat through the party finder, it automatically sends us through a PvE combat guild. Or if we're doing mining missions and we want to be a crew, we would get rep with a mining crew or a mining type of organization, right? So this way it would make incentive, not just by making the party finding simplified. It would also kind of incentivize because of payment now and reputation. So people wouldn't necessarily care oh, hey, I don't mind just being a gunner on a Polaris. Now I'm getting paid.
Yeah, you don't have to. And if the system's robust enough, you don't have to talk to anyone. You might as well be in a single player game.
Right.
You don't have to
just get a marker
on that level. You get a marker.
Yeah.
That guy's a friend. That guy's an enemy. And you're just a part of that machine. So I think a robust system would make a big difference. And I hope that a lot of more solo players would hop onto something like that. But it's not around right now. They talked about it in SitCon though, so I feel pretty good about it coming soon. And so I hope that I think that'll make a difference.
There is a silver lining, during big events, the player bases on the server who are doing those events means that everyone's kind of in one area.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want to go do something that typically is too dangerous for you to do as an industry player, we had mentioned running gold.
Yeah.
How there's only 2 spots in Stanton to do that at. Well, all the pirates and everybody around that is going to be doing the event because that's where all the people are. Go make some money.
Yeah.
There is something for you to do when the event's going on. If the event doesn't have a solo player option.
Yeah, no, 100%. You could, if you've liked Star Citizen so far, you don't need new content, right? You can use the old stuff and it'll be easier to kind of get away with that, or you could maybe go to places you haven't been in a while, Shepherd's Rest or something like that, because a lot of the community is going to be focused here, at least for the first couple of weeks,
I mean, you bring up a good point. I was actually going to recommend for solo players to even try tackling some of those contested zones and getting those key cards now. Because
that's a great idea.
A lot of the PvP players are going to be kind of testing it out in a lawful system, right? Because this is going to be a real test of skill for PvP players with a crew. They're essentially going to be committing themselves to crime when they jump people. Now, that's if, of course, there are going to be crews that are hey, we're coming in. If anyone's there, we're peaceful, That happens a lot in Stanton. And I'd recommend people pick up on that and just join up with those crews, give it a shot.
Yeah.
But, there are going to be a lot of people, especially when our other member Jumps is on, I guarantee you we're going to be hostile during those times. We're going to come in and we're there are going to be some of us in chat that are going to be hey guys, we're taking over this area. You should get out of here. We got a crew member and we got to follow him.
Yes,
But
Captain
it-
Jumps.
Yeah,
but
if you've never heard of the town Fallujah, you might want to start looking up on it because it might be similar.
yeah.
We're gonna blare
it's-
Metallica and Iron Maiden at, for the next 2 days around this spot.
Yeah,
And
if you
anybody
don't-
who's left,
you have to come to us if you have to affirm and kneel to us and say you're a classic rock lover. And if you do that, then we give you free passage. If not, you're dead. I mean,
I never get these memos.
oh yeah, you didn't hear? It's
No.
the new event we're running.
Okay, all right.
it gets emailed out. Are you not on the email chain?
I might not be on the email chat. Yeah, if you could send that
out
out
a
to
newsletter.
me.
Yeah, I'll get your email on that. We'll talk after the show. We'll talk.
Cool. It's important to know terms of engagement.
I think this puts a good bow on the Aligner Mind conversation. We haven't played with it much, I will admit. So we're gonna have to probably do a follow up on this and get our thoughts on it after we've played it a while. This is just sort of like, what do we think is going to happen here? So let's shift gears to our new spaceship friends that just came out. We have the old Atlas Geo and the Golem. Yeah, the little Golem boy.
Yeah.
I just started a Discord share, so you can check that out. And it's just 2 photos that we have of our 2 friends, 2 new friends to our industry players and beyond, as far as that's concerned. So for those who don't know, Atlas Geo is a sweet mech, super cool. It's got jump jets, and it's a miner. So it works pretty much like the Rock, except it can also do hand minables. So it's very versatile, very small, gets into those small crevices, and it's easy to unload and load. You just need to buy SCU boxes, and you can just shove them in there, or quarter SCU boxes. Shove them in there, replace them when it's full. So it's a nice package. It's something I think they took the Atlas platform and they've really expanded on it, and they've learned the lessons they learned from the Rock. And looks like we're getting a nice vehicle out of that whole picture there. So it's a good one. And then the Golem is smaller. They're calling it a starter miner, which contains, I think, 32 total SCU space that you can load up with rocks of all kinds. It has a bespoke laser that you can't change out, but it's got like a nice removable, easy to remove cargo. And it's a small little guy that fits in a lot of stuff. So there's a lot of potential there. I think let's start with that Geo, because I think that's most pertinent to Aligner Mind. How do you guys feel about that?
Love it. Brilliant.
Yeah.
More.
Yeah, Aitan, I want you to take this one because I have thoughts about the Golem that I'd like to speak about.
That's fair. I come from a very primitive mindset of I love mechs, I love jump packs, and I'm looking at it through like, I don't know the terminology, but basically like I'm just so excited because I've been walking around in the Atlas for so long, and this is just a delight to be able to have like jetpacks. I think it's a really great mechanic.
Yeah, there's a lot of fun stuff to be done with the jetpacks.
That's a big boon to just the Atlas platform. That thing is slow, and so to be able to have some maneuverability now.
Yeah, and it feels good. It handles really nicely. Now I guess in terms of practicality, it's a bit new to me. I don't really know all the technicals and like the stats of like the mechanisms inside of it. So I couldn't actually tell you like how useful it is compared to like hand mining or rock mining versus like just the thought of the like ability to traverse terrain.
Well,
there we go.
Like people pay a lot for convenience. I mean, how expensive is a washing machine? This machine can do hand minables and vehicle minables, which have now been split, by the way. That's an interesting change that they added.
Oh, so it can do both.
It can do both. Yeah. So this is, it's probably not as great as the Rock, but the hassle of getting a rock in your ship and it bouncing around and et cetera, and the space it takes up, might as well just get a couple of these bad boys. It kind of feels like it's a good direction.
At the very beginning of this episode, we talked about, where I started at with a Cuddy Black and a Rock going to town. There was many a times where the Rock just didn't cooperate with the Cuddy Black just because it was slightly too big here or just didn't have enough space over there. And making that into a smaller platform to this geo, and now I can fit that easily into a cuddy or a nomad for that example. Man, you could fly that ship like you stole it, and you get something very maneuverable at this point because it's so much smaller. Like, take the cutter for example. I think you could fit this thing in a cutter.
Yeah, and it maybe the ship is slow, but you can get so close to the rocks now, just landing right, and then getting into the thing that doesn't necessarily matter as much because you can bring such a small platform. You don't need to bring the C2 out, to get multiple rocks in there or the MSR.
Yeah.
A nice little solo ship will do you.
And one thing I always hated with when I started going up in size in ships, take like the Connie, for example. I flew the Taurus for a long time, and I didn't like rock mining with the Taurus because finding a level platform to get on and off, to get the rock on and off of the Taurus was always really hard. You'd find this perfect slot of gems, and then you would spend 15, 20 minutes just trying to get your rock off of the ship. Yeah.
This should make it easier.
And it never did. So I feel like smaller in this scenario is better.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, and I want to mess with it. I swore to Chris Roberts. I swore by all that is holy, Mr. Chris Roberts, I am not going to open my wallet for you again. This is the last time, sir. And just before we recorded this episode, I of course picked up the Atlas myself with some.
Yeah, of course. He's got a room in my bank.
Yeah,
a personal room. He could just come visit.
He's like, hey, I'm popping in here. What are you guys doing? I got a new cool spaceship with a cool laser. You want in?
And I heard you guys got money. Let me roll around in it.
Exactly. So. Definitely a cool ship and one I'm going to be using a lot from, dropping from orbit just to see how that goes to using it as intended. There's going to get a lot of fun times that are going to be happening with this bad boy for sure.
I mean, they also have the, I don't know if you've seen the picture of like a mech variant.
Combat variant.
Yeah. Now, look, I got to be honest. I'm not the biggest fan. I don't particularly care for the design, but I love the idea.
Yeah,
I think it's April Fool's joke.
I'm about that. I love that. My biggest gripe about April Fools is that like so many ideas across so many gaming companies are just so good on April Fools, and we will never see that kind of quality of like product ever. Yeah.
Well,
only as a joke.
Inside Star Citizen. Yeah, did you see the end of that video?
The end of the video was so good. They took the Rock DS, which has been the biggest flop of Star Citizen history, like next to the Cuddy Steel, right? It is like the biggest flop ever. And then they're like, we're gonna have the Rock TS. Triple.
Yeah,
I'm about it. About it.
They had two. It was so funny. It was two. It's like basically a Rock DS, but symmetry reflected. There's just two
put another chair on the other side of it. This will not be coming in 4.1.
No, I will say,
I thank them for that.
Like having almost like a redundancy to vehicles and ships, though, is okay. Like down the line, we're going to want to see variety, right? It's like you think about modern day trucks and modern day cars that are made and like how they have, company names that are all recognized by their logos and stuff. And that's kind of what down the line, we should have fillers that really are never going to fit anyone's meta. Like no one's going to fly certain things because they're just not good. And I think that's okay because at the end of the day, it's like you still see them in combat. You're still going to see them flying around. And I think adding that visual variety is going to be a nice touch.
I hope they get to a point.
For now.
Yeah, Great Cat, they can have the rock and like kind of the vehicle mining for now. But I would definitely like to see more companies kind of get in on that, just a little more style, a little change. It does this better, does, giving yourself some choice, I think is important. But I mean, as long as we get the gameplay loops in for now, I'm happy.
I mean, there's definitely those ships that we pick because of numbers and it, holds 6 guns and it does, pew pew better. But there are most ships that I've ever, purchased. I purchased on vibes.
Yeah.
Like, this thing feels right to me.
This is it. Vibes are important.
I think the Fortuna versus the Vulture is a perfect example here. The Fortuna is basically worse in every way.
Yeah.
It's going to be slower with, salvaging. It is going to be just as expensive, right? To do everything just a little bit slower. And the only thing that it's doing better is that it moves the boxes a little bit easier for you.
That's right.
But it's Misk, and I'm a fanboy of Misk, and I kind of go, I like it more than the Vulture. I want to go try it out.
Yeah. I think it's always good to have that. I mean, talking about variants, of course, you could go with a prospector, or now you can go with the old little Drake Golem boy. Vibes alone. Let's start there. Vibes alone. How do we feel about the old Drake Golem?
Vibes alone. Man. Yeah, I think on vibes, this is Drake. This is like, I love Drake and what they do. Starting with the Cuddy Black,
Yeah,
Drake kind of resonates with me. He's like, this is what a spaceship should be like, just kind of strapped together with spit and duct tape.
Yeah, I love it. I mean, I love I at first I wasn't sold. I was like, I'd like maybe an Argo, miner for the small version. But the Drake Golem is really like capturing my heart, because it does just look like they just slapped a bunch of shit together, and they were like, this is a spaceship now. We put a big laser on it. Are you happy? I love that. I think that's so great. Yeah, no gimbals. The arm doesn't gimbal. It's just there. It's on like a.
It feels like, hey, what if we put booster packs on a mole?
Yeah.
Like, this thing that holds cargo. What if we put a laser on it and some engines?
But the laser is so old school too. I mean, it's like it's just on this rail. Have you seen this thing come out? It's like it's so funny. I love it.
It reminds me of Aitan could really speak to this, but like the 40K, dreadnoughts. Apparently, they're still hand loaded.
Oh my gosh.
By thousands of men just working a crank inside the ship, trying to load this, slug the size of the Empire State Building.
Oh, you mean for their ships?
Yeah, so I just imagine there being just like a slave there in the back that's just like turning a wheel, trying to get this crane to slowly, extend out for the Golem.
Yeah, it's like all pure mechanical force, pure brute mechanical force.
It's the pilot. He has to like lean back, crawl through a vent, like jerry rig something to the left,
sitting on like a bicycle
to the right.
There's a copian on a wheel back there that just like keeps running. It's got like a piece of meat dangled in there.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think great success. Vibe-wise, great success.
Vibe-wise, great success.
I also sorry, you go first.
All right. Well, I was going to steer the conversation of like, this is incredibly important to Star Citizen, like kind of like starting a new game package, and being the first time we really see job fields, job silos. What was it? Career paths.
Yeah.
Thank you. First time us actually seeing career paths, where you can start immediately. Before, I think the closest thing you could do would be jump into a Vulture or a Prospector in that game package. But you're asking somebody to drop like $150.
Yeah, this is what's the price? $60. It's a nice, reasonable price. I mean, that's a good price point for any starter ship.
Yeah, this is a starter ship, level of price point for the game package and the ship. It's $75. And you can get it on sale right now for like $65, something like that. But now, if you know that mining is what you want to do, and that's how you want to make money, which I could have told you that, 2 hours into the game, that like, oh yeah, this is what I want to do. This is where I would have spent my money. I would have loved to get a little ship like this.
Yeah. It's laser's no slouch either. I mean, this is a definite. I think this is, if you're interested in mining, this is a good one to go for. If you're trying to start that out, or you have a passing interest, pick this little bad boy up. I think you're going to get a lot of joy out of it. Let's talk about those stats, because it's no slouch. I mean, it really isn't the power of a Helix head, but there is a 25% resistance modifier, plus 25% resistance. So that means you're not mining rocks to the level of the Helix Head, but you're getting close. It has some instability factor to it, so it's going to be a little harder to use on some of these more dangerous rocks. But you do have a couple slots for some gadgets to kind of adjust that to your liking. How do you feel like this sits, comparatively?
Well,
It's good for
go
a
ahead,
small
Aitan. I'll let you-
package.
Yeah,
No,
go for
dude. No, I was thinking that it was really good for its size. It's I think that it's more fit for maybe like a mining operation than a solo player. Like if a solo player could save up, it's like the cheaper alternative that they could pick up on like quicker. But at the end of the day, it's like I'm not even sure. I'm assuming it's weaker than the prospector, right?
Yeah, it is. It's
so
weaker.
you're gonna have that issue, and also because of its size, it's a lot easier to fit it into like pocket carrier situations.
Very maneuverable as well, which I think is a big benefit for me, because that's my least favorite part about the prospector, is that it's just like, oh, it's so slow for its size. It's so slow.
The chunky. It's a seal, you know.
Well, I really want to kind of
way.
think of it on this as a starter mining ship. I think making the laser bespoke and putting it where they did, making it basically the starting laser on the prospector is the arbiter laser, I think. And it's basically this laser that the Golem has, but with less power. Right? Mm-hmm. So it's a good starting laser. So the Golem's laser is going to be the prospector's starting laser, but better.
Yeah.
And so if you are trying to learn mining, which is the most fleshed out game loop for Star Citizen, at least in the industry standard, it goes, there's a lot to unpackage there. Yeah. And if you just need to like get a couple hours in before you get overwhelmed with decision paralysis, having it's bespoke, your stats aren't going to change, and you can worry about all the little attachments later. You just need to get out there, start cracking rocks. This is going to do that better than the prospector.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's going to be, from a flying perspective, more user friendly. You don't have to worry about that if you're new to the game. So
it's going to be cheaper all around. Like the fuel isn't going to cost you as much.
32 SCU box or like 216 SCU boxes right there to detach is a super convenient thing.
That's very convenient. Yeah. I think this is, you bring up org gameplay, and I do think that this has a lot of, organized gameplay potential. I'm going to, if you want to check out this stream here, I'm going to show you an image that I pulled from Captain Foxy Loxy, great YouTuber. You should check him out. He does a lot of cool stuff and checks out some neat things with this. So here we have a Polaris on screen right now. You can see that as they have it set up, and they're not even really saving a lot of space here. They've got 2 golems in here, and they've got plenty of room for more. So you can put a lot of little guys in here. You could like really stack them up. I'm thinking like 4 or 5 at least, into this hangar bay here. So that's huge. I mean, if you have a Polaris.
So this is how you do this. Well, in my opinion, big mining op like this with the Polaris, have one guy in the Polaris just to like keep a tracker on where the Polaris is.
Yeah.
But then instead of having the Polaris like kind of scout around for you or stacking it to the brim with golems, put some snub fighters in there that can be scouts for your rocks. They're going to be going out and scanning everything and finding the good rocks that you want to spend your time on.
Well, even the golem.
Yeah.
If you want to even simplify that, the golem could be the scout. You just send that out there. You have the guy in the Polaris who's not only a platform where we can store a bunch of stuff, but he's a defense platform too, right? Like you have one guy in a Polaris, that's a scary threat, right? That in and of itself is a little frightening. And like if you can get one of the the guys in the if they can make their way back, all of a sudden you've got a crude Polaris that you're dealing with, and that could be very, very frightening indeed. So
being able to actually man that or be organized with that is very very attractive.
Very attractive. I mean, here's another thing that
Very
makes it
incredibly so.
even more attractive. So below, you can actually sneak a golem in there as well, as you can see here. So you could, here's what I see happening, right? Okay, so, you keep the golems stored up top, right? But as they're mining, you drop them into this bay here. So you got two guys in the Polaris. One's flying the Polaris, keeping a tabs on it. The other guy is attaching mining gadgets and unloading the rocks and stacking the crates, right? So, he's putting the mining gadgets on the rocks. He comes back here. He unloads the stuff. You drop your little golem in here. He unloads it, hooks you back up with some new crates. You go back out there. And then, you could really have like an efficient operation working that way if you had just like a little extra help there. So there's a lot of potential.
Yeah, the detaching of the bags needs to start working. So we can currently detach bags, but whenever you attach them to an elevator or to a cargo grid, they sink underneath the elevator, basically.
Yeah, I saw that.
There's like a workaround where if you put like a 2 SCU box down and then you put your bag on top of that 2 SCU box, then you can see half of the bag before it sinks all the way down. It's real jank, but that just like totally cripples your operation here, because the whole idea is that, you have this light little ship that can mine and it can suck things up super fast and fill up and then comes back to the mothership, unloads, gets empty bags, and then goes again.
Well, damn it. Star Citizen thought I was like, you're going to have some, I was like, I'm going to have some fun. And Star Citizen's like, no, you're not. What are you talking about? This is Star Citizen. Thought you could do something that should work. Come on, guy.
Do you like jank? That's what's going to make it fun, right?
Right.
I feel like jank is like the name of a criminal that lingers in an alleyway with a crowbar and goes for knees. Like, that's jank.
Old
just goes for knees.
Yes, they call me Old Jank. I walk around, I got my crowbar. I'm going to take your kneecaps out, boy.
Yeah, Billy, stay away from him. I know he's old, but he can swing.
He's wily. He's a wily guy. I'll fight in the war.
No, that's great.
I think that's sad that you can't. I hope they fix that soon. We got to do some testing, because wonder if let's not even attach to the grid. Let's just place it. Like, can we do that? Or can we do like some other things? Are there other workarounds that we can figure out here? Maybe we keep them in the top hangar where there is no cargo grid. So you can just sort of, stack that up and then we store them down here. So I think that's something I am excited and pleased to play with. And I think this makes it a great pairing. Yeah, you can fit it in the C2, the A2, et cetera, even the Carrack if you're careful. But I think this Polaris, if you have one of these bad boys sitting around, is going to be a great. We've talked about you can do a bit of a mining operation with the Prospector, but this I think takes it to another level. If you have a bunch of these golems, and if you have a lot of them, you can crack any rock. So,
well, yes and no.
Yes and no.
So, does anybody here remember the giant mining change of 319?
What happened with 319? I guess I'm not familiar.
So mining used to be more lasers the better, right? The more lasers you could put on a rock, then you could crack it. In 319, they reworked the entire mining field, from the ground up. How rocks spawn, where minerals were located, how lasers worked, attachments, everything to what we know today. And they changed the meta to where more prospectors equals more better, to the multi-crew meta where one mole is better than 3 prospectors, because prospectors have the problem of when they put multiple lasers on one rock, the instability of that rock goes through the roof. So as you're mining now, so way mining works when you're cracking rocks, you need to get it into a sweet zone, heat up the rock until it's at the perfect temperature, and you want to hold it there until the rock cracks. Well, that temperature is jumping wildly with the more lasers we put on it now. So our sweet zone is only so big, And some rocks that have a really high instability, that sweet zone is very small. And so if we're adding more instability to the rock, being able to crack it gets harder and harder.
You know, and then with the instability modifier, that's a huge trouble for the golem for sure. I mean, once again, we're gonna have to do some testing because there might be a way to get it in that sweet spot, right? If we outfit the golems to, you know, with proper modules that, you know, specifically target instability, and also some mining gadgets on the rock, we might be able to, you know, work around this a little bit. But yeah, that is something to consider where it would make it a lot tougher, right? I mean, you're probably better off bringing out a mole, but this is just cooler, right? I mean, and it's fun, you know, and I'm sure you make some profit.
And I think exactly what you hit. Modules and gadgets are going to be your way to crack, you know, the giant rocks, you know, the stuff that's, you know,
that Quantanium motherlode.
Yeah, I want to say 25 tons was like a really big rock, but I don't want to just spat out numbers without being accurate.
No, do it. It's fine. I heard it was 75 tons.
Yeah, so
that's how you're gonna crack that 10,000 ton rock, baby.
but yeah, you know, that's it. You know, I would like to see this reality where we have a mothership and a bunch of little miners come out of it.
Yeah.
Maybe when we have the what's that ship that's supposed to do refining in space?
That's Orion. I think it's the MSI or MISC Orion.
So I'm not sure how that'll work with like drop-offs for other ships.
See that for a while, but I hope
I can't imagine.
Yeah,
it's like so beyond the scope of what I can find. Eating asteroids that size, like I can't even possibly imagine at this point.
Yeah, so the Prospector and the Mole have size 1 and 2 lasers. I think the Orion was slated to have like a size 10 mining laser or something like that. You know, or some massive mining laser on it, and then had a fleet of smaller, like size 1 through 5 lasers. Yeah, just so that it can kind of just show up to an asteroid field, just consume the entire asteroid field, and then refine all of it, and then move on with its life.
I like it. Well, I want to get into 4.1. I want to start playing with some stuff. I'm itching to pull the trigger, get back into the game, and start playing. So I want to leave with one final thought, which is, both of you see yourselves playing a lot of 4.1 in the coming patch with all the stuff being added?
I think so.
Yeah,
I'm gonna give it a shot. You know?
I want to say yeah. I like I said, I have a lot of anxiety towards actually playing the event.
No, you come with me. I got a big Polaris. I keep you safe.
He's big safe Polaris.
Yeah. There you go. You know, if I can ride in on the golden chariot that is the Polaris, then, you know, my whole attitude will change.
No. Yeah, I'm excited. And you know what? I got you on the combat front. I'll try to keep you defended from the skies. So hopefully we got a good crew going as we get into it.
And I think that's really what's going to make this event is the group gameplay.
Yeah, I mean that's what makes Jumptown so fun is those group moments. You know, friendly A2 incoming. You know, oh my God, he's on the ridge. We've got an enemy incoming, right? And like that working together element. I think a lot of the best moments in Star Citizen shine through best when we have a lot of these features coming together, all these different gameplay loops, all these different people working together or working against each other. Those are my favorite Star Citizen moments, and those are the stories I think you remember in the long haul. So with that, I think we're going to leave it off here. We have gone a little longer than we did last time, so I hope you guys did enjoy this episode. As usual, please be sure to like and subscribe and leave a comment down below any of your thoughts on what we've just touched on in this video. Are you going to be playing a lot of 4.1? Do you like the Golem? Do you hate the Golem? Are you a Golem hater? If so, we're going to have words. What's your favorite drink? Cruise Lux or Cruise Dark? Big rivalry going on here, like left versus right Kit Kat. Please sound off in the comments below, and we'll catch you guys in the next one with some more 4.1 content.